Welcome to the Big Four Accounting Firms podcast, brought to you by big4accountingfirms.com and the Big Four Accounting Firms YouTube channel. Before we get started, just wanted to remind everybody to support us if you have a chance or if you can. Even $1 helps, and we have a link in the description to a website called Buy Me a Coffee. It's just a way to donate to us and support us. Again, any amount is helpful so that we can keep putting out content. And there's also other ways for you to support us in the show notes to this podcast or on YouTube in the description. In today's podcast, I wanted to talk about becoming specialized. There's a few paths that you can take in the Big Four account. Well, there's a lot of paths you can take in the Big Four accounting firms, but one of the common paths, or one of the most common courses, is you're going to go into some kind of client management role, whether it's an audit, tax, advisory, where you're assigned to a client and you have knowledge, whether it's an audit, general knowledge, whether it's an audit, tax, or whatever field of consulting, and you maintain a client workload. And that's one path. And then the other path is becoming specialized, such as mergers and acquisitions. And if you're in tax, it could be a specific area of tax law, like partnerships, international, etc. So, but like in audit too, there's various accounting concepts and areas where you can focus and become specialized. And I'm not even talking about industries either. There's the industry specialization, but there's these smaller concepts below the general concept in the Big Four accounting firms, and you can get specialized, like hyper specialized in certain areas. Even in mergers and acquisitions, there's certain areas where you can focus. If there's a new regulation that comes up, you can focus in that regulation that'll impact mergers and acquisitions, whether it's for audit or tax. And there's several paths that you can take when you're considering what to do with your career, because if you want to work in industry at some point, then you should get specialized in certain areas, because that specialization is what will get you a better job in industry. Because industry, when you go to industry, you're going to be in charge of a lot more. They're not going to just have, because in industry, you don't manage multiple clients for the most part, unless you work at a very big company and you have to manage a bunch of subsidiaries and getting information from them. So in that role, you could maybe be something like operations, similar to the Big Four. But in the Big Four, you're mainly going to be maintaining a lot of different things, doing your timesheet, pulling whips and stuff to do billing. You're going to be doing stuff like that, making your partner look good, working on performance feedback for the people on your team, worrying about the team's schedule and whether it's fixed, it matches the budget. But if you go into industry, all that admin stuff goes out the window. You're less of a operations type of person, and you're more technical and getting things done. And you'll be in charge of a lot more. So the more specialized knowledge you get in the Big Four accounting firms, in that case, the better it is. And the more specialized you are, the more areas of specialization that you understand, the higher pay that you can get. Because if you're just a generalist in the Big Four accounting firms and you try and go in industry, you're going to be competing against other generalists. But if you're hyper specialized, and if you're hyper specialized in multiple areas, then your resume is going to stand out. And usually the clients have issues where they want somebody with specialization. They want some of that general knowledge, some of that operations, because they need you to manage your workload. They need you to manage people below you. But the more specialized you are, the better. And as far as the Big Four accounting firms go, I think specialists overall, you're again, depending on how specialized you get, you're going to get paid more. You're going to move up more if your specialization is growing. So whether you decide to become extremely specialized in the Big Four or not, I don't think is that big of a deal. But I think you need to be working on getting specialized or stacking your resume in the Big Four accounting firms. You shouldn't just be doing what everybody else is doing, because You're going to be competing against them in the big four, and you're going to be competing against them in the job market if you decide to leave the big four. But if you just work on the day-to-day stuff, then you won't get specialized. You'll just get bits and pieces. You need to actively manage this. And this is something you have to think about in the big four, because it's easy to lose sight of this. And you can go many years in your career without gaining unique specializations, without looking at unique projects and learning from them, because you're like, well, I don't care. I'll let the specialist do it and I'll just go back to doing my basic work. Well, that's fine, but you need to at least rope yourself into some of those specialist calls, pick their brain to make sure that you listen, or maybe do a rotation to help them out. But that's just something that I wanted to talk about today. Something I think people should consider, as I've been thinking about it a lot, of making sure that you get specializations so that you differentiate yourself from people while you're at the big four, and in case you do choose to leave the big four.